questions, and then at the very end, we'll ask the speakers. So let's start with our first speaker. Mina Gabriel, give him a hand. Wear this. Because this is different. This is for recording over there. Do you want to hang it up somewhere and put it in your pocket?
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the one for talking. And you can walk around if you want. This is
Am I allowed to have notes?
your notes?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. Yeah, of course.
Where do I?
Written notes?
Computer. I'm like.
No, I can't hook up the computer now because I don't
No,
know how
no,
to do this.
no, not hook it up, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll figure it out. Yeah. You're good. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mina Gabriel, and I'm an operations engineer at California Resource Corporation, which is the largest oil and gas company in California. My education starts at Pierce College. Spent about 3 years there. I was able to transfer to Cal State Bakersfield. And in Pierce College, I got associate's degree in science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. In Bakersfield, I got a BS in engineering with petroleum emphasis. While I was in Bakersfield, I worked for a couple of places here. Engineering for kids, taught about math, science, engineering to kids, as well as tutoring club. I taught a lot of high school kids in math and science. I also did research for Cal State Bakersfield. I have a patent that is pending now, and I did a lot of research. I have a lot of papers there. And I did intern at California Resource Corporation for about a year as an engineering tech assistant. In that position, I did a lot of digitizing of paperwork. I was able to transfer to engineering technician assistant. I spent a year there. And in that position, I did a lot of permit work to deal with the government, to do a lot of work we do now. And then I became an operations engineer for about 8 months now. I do a lot of optimizing of equipment to make it last longer, for us to make more money and have less downtime. Now, the pros of engineering. It's a high-paying job, especially petroleum engineering. Relatively easy to find a job. Now, relatively bolden and highlighted because if you're a good student and you do research and you got a lot of engineering background, you'll be easily picked up as an engineer. If you don't do that stuff, it's going to be relatively harder for you. You have a variety of industries. You have ag, petroleum, electrical, mechanical, aerospace, and the list goes on. There's a lot of engineering out there. You have to deal a lot with projects and teamwork. If you can't work with others, you won't get a job anywhere. It's a great opportunity to grow and advance your career. I know people that have been in the industry for a couple of years and they get management and leaders and some even CEOs. You only need a 4-year degree. Now that is only for petroleum. Some other companies might be okay with a 4-year degree with a bachelor's of science, but most of them require a master's. And if you want to do research, you would be better off getting a doctorate degree. And we will always need engineers because they are awesome. And that's just a fact. I can't. The cons of engineering. Engineering courses are not for everyone. It's hard. But if you work hard, you'll succeed. If you don't know something, ask. There's people to help. I know Tamara, he could probably help you. Some jobs demand long hours and spending time in extreme weather conditions. Sometimes I have to be in the field, in mountains, and there's a bunch of rigs out there and pumping units. And sometimes you'll run into a snake or a scorpion or something scary. So when I get to location, I try not to get out of the car. You spend a lot of time on the computer and you write a lot of emails. If you're off for a week, you'll probably have like 1,000 emails waiting in your inbox for you to look at. The job is demanding. You need to meet a lot of deadlines. And you manage different aspects of projects. So you're giving a project and you need to cut costs, make more oil, and not spend so much time in downtime in mechanical work. So it's very difficult for some people. Some people are not good at that kind of deal. And it's high stress. Sometimes you get a call and you need to make a decision at that moment or something is going to go wrong. I think that's it.
Thank you, Nina. Gabriel, controlling engineering. Can we have Angela? Come on, please. Angela Gerges.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, no. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm Angela, and I'm in the social work field. So my experience is mostly in mental health. I was working at Omni for about almost 6 years in behavioral health, doing like mental health assessments for children, adults, elderly people. And that's when I decided to go back to school and go into social work because it was very limited on what I could do. So you can't do therapy and that kind of thing. And that's what I really wanted to do, is to help people. So I'm currently in the social work program at Cal State, and I'm going into my last year. But social work is it's a very broad field. Like, there's many things that you can do. It's not just one thing that you can do. You can do several things, which is the greatest thing about it. But it's mostly like you're dealing with a lot of complicated cases. You're dealing with individuals, families, couples that are going through a lot of challenges, whether it's homelessness, loss of a child in custody, like in CPS, those kinds of things. And so we deal with these types of situations by providing them resources, teaching them skills. If you're licensed, you're able to teach them coping mechanisms, like, therapy skills, like how to manage their mental health issues, that kind of stuff. It's considered as one of our helping professions, like psychology and sociology. Social workers, they work in a variety of settings. So they can work in hospitals, they can work in mental health clinics, they can work in prisons, they can work in nonprofit organizations, they can work in schools and hospice, they can work in so many different organizations. Some require more schooling than others, so that's the only thing. So what types of population would you work with when you're a social worker? So we work with a variety of people. We work with the homeless population, we work with the disabled population, we work with those that have chronic medical issues, we work with the LGBTQ population, we work with older adults, like or geriatric population, which are the elderly. We work with people with mental health issues, whether it's mild to severe. We work with court-ordered individuals, people who come out of prison, and people who are dealing with grief and loss. So these are the educational requirements, but they're mostly from Cal State because that's where I'm getting my degree. So Cal State does not offer a bachelor's degree in social work. So you have to minor in something like sociology or psychology. And now the sociology department, they actually offer a sociology human services concentration if you do want to go into a field like social work or counseling psychology. And because it's very competitive, so you do need to get a master's. It's really hard to find a job with just a bachelor's in social work. So a master's in social work is preferred. And the program at Cal State is nationally accredited, meaning that you can go anywhere after you graduate. Like if you want to go to England, you can work in England. It's all nationally accredited, which is great. And because it's very competitive, I would say like you need really good GPA. Like it says 2.5, but I know they look at higher because Cal State's the only master's program here. So I have classmates that are from Visalia, Tulare, Palmdale, even students from Los Angeles that are doing this program. So, and they don't accept a lot of students. So like just for part-time, they only accept like 25 people, and their full-time they accept 75. So it's very competitive. And they do require also not only a good GPA, but work experience in the field. They want to know that you've worked with other individuals that are, that come from different settings, like whether it's working in foster care or anything that's human services kind of job, like foster care or mental health with the disabled population, anything like that. And they want to see that you have leadership potential. Like they look for, because you're going to be like an advocate for those other people. So they want you to have strong oral communication, strong writing skills as well. And they also like to see that you have volunteer experience. They want to see that you go out in the community and you work with other people and you service others. So social work, so it's not necessary to get your license in social work, but it opens a lot of jobs, like a lot of doors for you. Like after you graduate, you apply to get this, it's called an intern number, and you can do it while you're working, and they require 3,200 hours of internship. It's clinical hours, which means that you'd be doing therapy and you have a supervisor who is licensed, and you have to pass 2 exams. One is the laws and ethics exam, and the other is the license and social work exam to be a licensed social worker. And you can get jobs like, administrative jobs with that. You can work in private practice. So the doors will open more if you have a license. So social workers practice, we abide by our laws and ethics, like our code of ethics in social work, even as students. We have to do about almost 1,000 hours of internship where we're evaluated by our supervisor who is licensed, and they have to evaluate us to like every semester to see that we are obeying the code of social work laws and ethics and stuff. So even after you graduate, you still have to abide by these ethics. and principles by helping other people and referring them to other services. You work with the community as well. So you, if they need services in, like, let's say you have somebody that's homeless, so you need to be knowledgeable about what agencies help these types of populations that you're coming across, because a lot of different agencies, different programs that would help them. And counseling and psychotherapy, just counseling with individuals, families, and groups. So we don't just work with individuals. We also do work with families, groups. And we help our communities by providing them, by trying to improve their lives. Like, a lot of them, they feel hopeless. And so we are their only support system to try to help them navigate through their challenges. And so with that, we have to also be knowledgeable about their circumstances, whether it's just their circumstances from their social, economic, social, and their cultural background. We have to be sensitive to all those when dealing with these people. And the career outlook, so social work is growing very fast. According to the National Association of Social Workers, it's growing in the United States, and the U.S. Department of Labor stated that there's 680,000 social work jobs in 2016, and it's expected to grow by 16% by 2026. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. For working in the social work. Can I have you, please? I'm sorry, not Mina. Well, the other Mina. Bishoy, I mean, Bishoy Mata. Sorry, Bishoy. Record your voice, but this will project your voice.
I'll type it. Okay. And this is the pointer. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Bishoy Mata. I lived here for 3 years and a half. I had an amazing time in this church. I moved now to Santa Barbara to get my new job, and I honestly miss all of you and miss everyone here, including the fathers. And literally, I had a great time, and I think this is the best time just to thank everyone here for the time. So now I'm a petroleum engineer. I work for Pacific Operators Offshore. It's located in Santa Barbara on the coast of California. And I graduated from Cal State East Bay. I spent 3 years over there, and I graduated with my engineering sciences with an emphasis of petroleum engineering. And I noticed like actually there's like all ages in here. So basically I'm gonna make it really simple and as much as I can. Basically, petroleum engineering is the science of getting the oil from underground. this underground applies onshore, on land, or offshore under the sea. So it's a really challenging major and career where like you have a lot of requirements to keep up with the market, with the demand, and keep people's life going on daily basis. Um, and for any petroleum engineer, there's a lot of areas that a petroleum engineer can specialize in. Four of them are actually, I guess, are the most like common um, fields in the petroleum engineering areas, and the petroleum engineering field are a reservoir engineer. What a reservoir engineer does is he basically locates where there's oil and finds like the locations that can be drilled, and like that would actually make a good outcome, which is basically a financial outcome, makes us more money. Is it worth it to bring the oil or not? That's the role of a reservoir engineer. And a drilling engineer basically plans and operates the drilling program. Basically, he tells us where to drill, how to drill, what is the process, and he manages the ins and outs of the drilling program. Production engineer makes sure that maximum production is being produced with the least money possible spent, with the highest efficiency. And basically, I think a facilities engineer is in many other like fields or like careers. So I'm not gonna dive into it because it can be a little bit different. But basically, petroleum engineering has those three main fields, which is reservoir engineer, drilling engineer, and production engineer. And I think actually it can be maybe it's right challenging. It's working in an oil field can be challenging. The temperatures, the noise, maybe the physical work sometimes that you need to do. But I still think it's possible for like both the girls and boys to get into this field, and it's not necessarily for boys. It can be for both. I know it's a man like dominated field, but that doesn't mean you can't get in, or it's gonna be challenging to prove yourself. But I don't think that should stand in your way or something. You can do it, and it's a really good field. Like Mina said, it has a lot of perks. I don't want to go all over that, so it's not repetitive. But Mina went over it, like the perks of being an engineer. And I can say also, being a petroleum engineer, you can travel a lot if you're fortunate to fall in that position. Okay, so for me, basically, what I do is I'm a production slash reservoir. If you work in a big corporation like Mina, you're gonna have a specific role because it's like they have a lot of engineers, so they like to give everyone a specialty to do his best in it. But I'm working in a small company, so basically I got two roles: a production engineer and a reservoir engineer. So when I do production work, I'm out in the field. Our site is actually on a platform in the sea, so it's called offshore platform. What I do is I make sure we produce maximum amount of oil with the least in the most efficient ways, and I make sure like we optimize everything that produces the maximum oil. And basically, um, this diagram shows like basically this is everything you're dealing with in a petroleum industry. Mostly, I want to say this is the major part in a petroleum engineering field. You're trying to use the best like casings and tubings and pump, which is like this casing that you can see. A production engineer basically tries to find the best like material, the best weight, the best pumps, optimize their speeds. Basically, you're doing all of this like engineering work to maximize efficiency and production. For reservoir engineer, like I mentioned, we basically find the oil and determine the ways, like where should we put that well? Is it next to this chair or over there? Is there more oil here or more oil there? Basically, should we make more like holes, more holes there? How many holes? Basically, everything like I keep saying to optimize, to maximize efficiency and production. And like any other major or any other field, maybe how you look at it is like makes all the difference. Maybe like Angela, she's a social worker, for example. How I see what she does is she helps like people to actually get and their daily lives to get through their struggle, whatever it is. So I think that's great. For me and Mina, for example, I think that we keep the world running. So basically, like the petroleum that we use is refined to a lot of products. So basically, gasoline for cars, diesel for trucks, jet fuel for jets, and it's also used in trains. But the thing is, that's what everybody sees. But being a petroleum engineer, you're helping basically the world goes around. So our electricity mainly is generated from oil or like from petroleum products. Our medicine is the products of petroleum are used in medicine, are used in doing like a lot of plastics that are like around us, a lot of rubber and a lot of cosmetics. And like these are only like, this is only a list that you can like, see that how petroleum products are used. So the way I see it, or I think you should look at your major or your career, what are you doing like to help people? Like, for example, if I was an architect, I would see it that I'm providing shelter for people. That way it actually makes me feel better and like gives me gives me what? Purpose. Yeah, okay. Okay. Makes me feel better like about what I do. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bishoy Mehta, petroleum engineering. Can you have Daniel Henry come up here, please? Sorry. You're good? Yeah. Thank you so much. So this is
I will, 5 minutes. Clip this on my, just put it in my pocket. And we've got. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Daniel Hanna. I'm a middle school teacher. Today I will be talking about the teaching profession in America and what you can expect if you want to go into this field. So you have to do a course of study in order to be a teacher. You have to get a bachelor's. It doesn't matter in what field it is, although it's preferred that you do it in a field related to what you will teach. Because even if, let's say, you get a degree in history, mathematics, you can't teach history or mathematics with that degree unless you have taken certification exams to show that you are qualified to teach that subject. You take those certification exams after you start credential programs. When you go through a credential program, this is a graduate study after the bachelor's, So you will have to do fundamental education courses in the credential programs. They teach you how to teach. They teach you how to teach students who don't speak English very well. They teach you to teach students with special needs. And they give you a methodology for whatever field you're going into, so you have all these skills before you walk into the classroom. Afterwards, you take your subject examination. CBEST is an exam that even substitute teachers take. It tests basic skills like mathematics, writing, and reading. Then you also have to take what's called the CSETs, which are exams that test subject matter competency. So like I said, you can have a degree in psychology and go in and teach mathematics if you show that you're qualified to teach it, as long as you pass those exams. Then you do what's called clinical practice. After you go through the credential program and complete the course of study, you go into a student teaching experience. You go into a classroom, you teach under a teacher or two, and you have a supervisor from the university where you're doing your credential program supervise your work, so that they see that when you're done with this and they sign off on you, you are qualified to be a teacher in the classroom. Now, that's actually changed in the last couple of years, and I'll go into that later. But there are 4 types of credentials you can get from a credential program. A multiple subject teaching credential is for elementary school. A single subject is for middle school and high school. Then there are 2 different ones for special education. There's mild moderate and moderate severe. So I'll address what's going on with the student teaching right now. What happened about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a shortage with the teaching profession. About half of the number that was needed to be in a classroom was currently studying in the credential programs, meaning when those students finished, you would only have half of your demand met. So they started awarding teachers internship credentials and other credentials called STIPs and PIPs, which qualifies you to teach in a classroom under the understanding that you're going to go to school and complete a credential. But once you get into the classroom, the way that practice works is your first 2 years you teach, you're considered probationary. You're not permanent, and you go through a professional development process to hone your skills. After you're done with that program, you get what's called a clear credential. Then your third year, at the beginning of your third year, you're awarded tenure, which means you're a permanent teacher. Now, what can you expect if you go into the teaching profession? Well, it's easy, right? Just give the kids work and kick your feet back on. Right? No. You should expect to be always working and thinking and putting in a lot of intention and thought and effort, because you never know what type of students you will have. And I'll tell you from experience, there are teachers that decide they're just going to give work and kick their feet back. Those are the same classes where the highest amount of disciplinary problems occur. So if you want to be breaking up fights and going up to the office and explaining yourself, do what I just told you to do. So you'll teach for several hours. If you're in middle school, high school like me, you teach the same subject to many different students throughout the day. Then sometime throughout the day, you have preparation time so that you can prepare for the lessons for the coming week and whenever you want to prepare. You also have to determine student mastery. So if you teach a lesson and you look at the kids and half of them failed the lesson, you need to go back and reteach it. So that takes the skills that you've been learning in the credential program and your personal judgment and figure out how to best serve these students so that they master the skills you're there to teach them. Then you also analyze data from many different sources to inform your instruction. And you have to work with the department. Some schools, it's on a weekly basis. Other schools, it's on a monthly basis. So you have to be able to collaborate regularly when you're in the teaching profession. Now, what's it look like if you want to be a teacher? Well, there's a teacher shortage. So you're in luck if you want to go in. Like I said, about 3 years ago, 50% of the number that was needed was in credential programs. And in 2016, 3% of students going into college expressed a desire to teach at all, meaning the shortage is going to get worse. And it's so rare, like I said, they've started using new credentials. They were there before, but they were rarely used. Like someone said, I don't want to go through a credential program. I want to be an intern. It was a very difficult process to get them in there. But now, because of that shortage, and I'll tell you from experience, in the last 4 years, every teacher that came in, every new teacher that has come into my school has had one of these 3. They have not completed the credential program. So let's say you've just graduated out of college and you want to teach. It is possible now, but you have to get the STIP permit. The STIP permit requires you to begin a credential program immediately and finish a certain amount of courses by the end of that year. And if it expires, then you walk out of the profession, and they will not notify you that it's about to expire. So I've known teachers that have had to leave school because their credentials expired. Then let's say you've started your credential program, but to make things simple, you haven't completed about half of the program. Then you go on what's called a PIP, so professional internship permit. You do that under the understanding that you're going to finish about half of the program within your first or second year. Then let's say you finished half of the program and all you have left is clinical practice, student teaching. You don't have to do that. You teach in the classroom and you're under an internship. When you finish your courses and the certification process, then you get your credential. And you have to go through the 2 years that I mentioned for professional development. So now some teachers are taking 4 or 5 years to get their clear credentials, where before they were only taking 2. What are the pros? It's very rewarding. You can get people that are not motivated to succeed at all in life, and you can make a change in that life. There's very good healthcare benefits. You get 10 to 12 sick days, including some for personal time off. Some districts, you don't have to say a word. You can go on a vacation for 2 days, and you don't have to tell them. And salaries are rising higher than inflation. It's about 20 to 30% higher than inflation. And you have the ability to move up to administrative positions if you would like. And the vacations, of course. You can't go wrong with that. You get a week in November, 2 in December, 1 in spring, and 10 in the summer. But you're paid for 11 months. So they don't consider that as non-paid time. They give you the money for it. Now the cons, anytime in your first 2 years, assuming you have a credential, you can be let go for any reason. You cannot dispute that. You cannot go to court over that. They can just let you go. And that can lead to a lot of abuse. Some principals let almost all their teachers go at the end of the year. That's not normal, but that could happen, and they're protected by law. Because a lot of things happen in the past where teachers were let go, they sued their principals, they sued the districts, and almost every single time, the principals and the districts were in the right. So the law changed and said you can just let them go for any reason and not worry about any type of repercussions. So that's a con. That's not matching the... Oh, it's slowing down. Your curriculums can change a lot. So let's say you're teaching a curriculum in mathematics and you like it and you've mastered it and you don't have to prepare too much these days. Next year they can come in and say, we're coming in with a new curriculum. And you'll have to learn that over again and spend a lot of time planning. If you're an elementary teacher, you have to prepare for multiple subjects throughout the day, and that can be very tiring. And also, if you're an elementary school teacher, you're stuck with the same kids the whole day. So let's say you have a student who's misbehaving. There'll be a behavior problem for 6 hours that day. Whereas when I teach middle school and I have a kid who's misbehaving for an hour, I only have to deal with them that hour. Now, discipline is a big issue these days because there have been a lot of lawsuits against the state because they were over-disciplining some students and they lost their education. They lost education time. So now when you discipline a student, there's no guarantee that anything will happen to that student and they can be back in your class and you're going to have to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel Hanna, for educating our future. Okay. Who's next? Yes, Michael, please. Yeah, I'll change that. Can you put this one for me? Yeah, because this is recording. Yusuf. I'll just- This thing fell off. I don't know how to put it back.
Good morning, everybody, while they're getting this ready. This is a really nice turnout, and we hope that each and every one of you is going to be a star in the field that they choose. Thank you. It was actually after Demian. Okay, while this is getting ready, what is the first thing you notice when you meet a person? Feedback. Sorry? Thank you. What is the first thing you notice when you meet a person? Yes? Well, you'll get there. You'll get tall. Anything else? Your smile. Thank you. That is actually from research the first thing people notice. Is it an inviting smile? Is it warm? Is it friendly? And so now we're going to shift gears. We're going to go into the health sciences. And dentistry is a career that involves, I don't know if I'm supposed to. It involves actually several fields. It is not just science. It is science, medicine, art, engineering, and for some of our engineers, I've worked with dentists that were originally engineers, and I think Tarek might have met that. And they turned out to be really excellent dentists because there's a lot of engineering when you work in the lab. And so it is a very rewarding career. What do we need teeth for besides just, eating? Is there anything that we need teeth for? Sorry? Okay. For speaking, for speech. If you notice, a lot of times when your tongue touches your teeth, that's how, the sound of a letter comes out. It is important for your health, being able not just to gobble your food, but to properly eat it. It helps with digestion. First, digestion starts in your mouth with your saliva. Also, for self-esteem, appearance. We live in a society where how you look affects how people perceive you, affects how you're going to get a job. People, before they go for an interview, they would come and they would ask to have their teeth, especially their front teeth, taken care of. So it has a lot of aspects that affects you. So eating, speech, and your self-esteem, how you look. Okay. People want to keep their teeth for most of their life. And now, because we have an elderly population that people are living longer, it didn't used to be like that. But I used to have patients that were in their 90s and late 90s, and they still want to have their teeth taken care of because, now people are more aware of health, and again, they live longer. So geriatrics, which is the science of the elderly, and it affects medicine, it affects dentistry, and it affects a lot of the health sciences. Okay. Changing the appearance of someone. Many of you have had braces, and we think that it's just for appearance, but it's not. It's actually for the health of your mouth, the health of the jaw, how you function. So it's not just for appearance, but it definitely changes the way people look. Okay, the different opportunities in dentistry. what can we do? There are actually two major categories: dentist and hygienist. The difference is, of course, the number of years, the area of practice, and the financial rewarding. Okay. Justin, I'm having a problem with this. Okay, who wants to go into dentistry? I've had people ask me that. Why did you choose dentistry? You have to like working with your hands. That's a must. You have to like science, and you have to like art. Because when I look at a person, at her face, how I'm going to design certain things, especially in the, or even in the back teeth, you have to have an artistic aspect, and you have to have an eye for color. How do you match? Not just people, sometimes their complexion, and they want pearly white teeth, and it will look fake. So you have to have an eye for color. You have to have an aesthetic ability. You want to make things look pretty. You have to like working with your hands. People who are artists, they tend to be really good dentists, or people who've done sewing and things like that. They like working with their hands. Very important. And of course, you have to do well in school. You have to like studying and be dedicated. Science is, the backbone of all the health sciences, anything that has to do with health. And so this is very important. It's an occupation that can help people, but any occupation can help people. That's something very important. Because you ask somebody, why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to be a dentist? And they say, I want to help people. Well, anybody can help people. Any profession you choose, if you choose to be honest in what you do it, and do it with a heart, give it your all, you are helping people directly or indirectly. The person, and I'm not saying this, for you, I'm just going exaggerating. The person who picks up our trash is helping people. He's preventing, disease, and he's preventing problems. So any career you choose, you are helping people. And there's something in Orthodoxy, it's called theology of work. How you glorify God in what you do by being honest, by doing it to the best that you can. And that's something very important. And so with all the different careers that you have, you need to choose something that you really like, not something that you're going to make a lot of money in. That's not going to make you happy. If the money comes along with it, so be it, for the glory of God. I mean, we all need to make a living, we need to make money. But if the goal that I'm choosing is just for that purpose, most of the time people are not happy. You want to be happy in what you do and do it to the best that you can. And that's, God's grace and his blessings then will overwhelm you. So that's something very important. You need to think, what is it that I like? And I want to work at that and be the best at it. Not for my glory, but for God's glory, obviously. Okay? It's actually, dentistry is very dynamic. It's there are always new materials, new techniques, new things that you have to learn. And I'm supposed to end this really quick, so I'm not going to take very long. For a dentist, you need 4 years of undergraduate and then 4 years of dental school. Some schools, very few, are 3 years dental school. UOP, University of Pacific, in San Francisco is 3 years. In California, Southern California, there is USC, UCLA, and Loma Linda, UOP. UCSF, they closed the dental school in the University of California, San Francisco. But there's also Western University. I think they started a dental program, I think a year or two ago. That's in Southern California, of course, all over the nation. You need to do well. You need to have a high GPA. Now, because it is a very competitive career, you need a high GPA. There is an aptitude test, the DAT, that's required with a good score, and it tests your sciences. For your undergraduate, you don't need to have just the science bachelor. You can have other bachelors, but you need to fulfill your requirements. Biology, inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, math, and then the other requirements, the English, psychology, and so forth. So it is, you need to do well in these. You can have a minor in whatever else you like. Any other, somebody likes history, you can have a minor in history along with your major. And then after that, I like general dentistry because there was a variety. But then you can also be a specialist. So there is a pedodontist who only works on children. There is an endodontist who does root canals, a periodontist, an oral surgeon. So there is a variety. And the dental hygienist is a 2-year program, undergraduate 2-year program for dental hygiene. This is an easy step to get into dentistry. And some of them who want to continue afterwards and be dentists, they can. Once they apply for dental school, they will get accepted. So that's another route. But anyway, dentistry is a rewarding career. The cons, of course, is I don't know how many times a day I used to hear when they come in, my patients say, especially first-time patients, I hate the dentist. And I'll say, I'm not going to take it personal, but everybody's associating it with pain. Once you make them comfortable, and that's psychology, then they like you, they like coming, and they feel better, they look better, and it's a rewarding career in that time. I'm going to end with, I tried to find a verse in the Bible about most of them about national. So I'm going to put that. And then anybody knows who the patron saint of dentists? Any guess? Yes. Very good. Thank you. Of course, Yusuf would know. Only Yusuf. Santa Apollonia, and she was a martyr. Thank you so much. I wish all of you good luck. We're looking forward to seeing all of you very successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ines Michael. Can I have Sherry and Siha, please, up here?
Thank you. I'll go fast. No worries, everybody. I talk fast. Am I hitting this one or am I hitting the top one? Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry, and I'm a speech language pathologist. And I wasn't sure if anyone knew what that was, so I thought I would give a little bit of information about it. So as a speech pathologist, I work with people of all ages, and I work with all these different types of disabilities or disorders. So for example, we work with speech or sound production. We work with language, how people understand and how they use language. I work with voice disorders, fluency disorders, or people who stutter. We work on social communication, which I think people don't understand that any nonverbal verbal language is all in the social area. We work with cognitive communication, which is attention and memory. And we also work with swallowing or feeding disorders. So it's a very broad field. I don't know if everyone understands how important communication really is. So as a speech pathologist, what would you do? To name a few things, and I won't go through the list completely because I know we're short on time, I wanted to mention that we work with people who had a stroke or a brain injury of any kind, people who have had communication and for some reason lose it, for people who are maybe young children who are born with a hearing loss or had chronic ear infections and so they don't develop speech and language, kids with autism. We work with people who have had babies who are born with cleft palate or craniofacial anomalies, when their lip doesn't fully seal through the womb. We help them with their feeding and their swallowing disorders and eventually into speech and resonance, their voice. We work with people who are verbal and nonverbal. So if you think about when you're walking around the store and you see people using like a communication box or a picture exchange to communicate their wants and needs. We also work with, if you know, accent reduction and accent enhancement, meaning if someone has an accent, we can help them reduce how they sound and more standard like, or if you're a movie star and you're training for a part, you can learn to have, I don't know, a British accent for your role. Where would I work? We have multiple, it's a vast ability to work anywhere. You can work in universities, private practice, any educational setting with all ages. You can work in hospitals, outpatient health care facilities, and you could also be a researcher or work in research centers. Again, the importance of communication. It is really, so just imagine in your minds that you are wanting to share a message and you cannot use your words. And now you can't even use your hands. You can't gesture, you can't point. Now you can't even use your eyes. You can't gaze in a direction that you want someone to look or to notice what you're trying to clarify. It's very important. And thank you, Dante and for doing a great job segueing between what we do. Middle ground between education, thank you, Daniel, and the healthcare facility, the healthcare practice. I put some slides in here of the importance of communication. It could be as minimal as just knowing when to lift a body, or it could be listening, speaking, writing, reading, and also using technology to communicate, because that's a growing area right now as well. So what are some of the characteristics of an SLP or a good SLP? You need to be organized. You need to be patient. You need to be pay attention to details. We're a very detail-oriented field. You look at the big picture and then you have to break it down into small steps of how you're going to correct it or how you're going to teach it so that people can utilize it. You need to be work with lots of different people and lots of different schedules. We work with all fields, actually, that is probably have gone up here minus the engineers. Well, probably engineers as well. We are also able to multitask. Average people have different needs, and you have a caseload of 50, you can see 100 patients a day or a month or a week. And you also need to be willing to learn. It's a growing field. It's constantly changing. There's great ideas that are always coming out, and it's good to learn. So what it takes to be an SLP. First of all, you need your undergraduate degree in communicative disorders, and that is a very specific undergrad degree. So not all universities have it, and I'll go into that. Once you finish your undergrad degree, you start applying for grad school, and it's very, very competitive. It is a high demand job, but it's also very difficult to get into school because of the amount of work and grades that need to be there. School, it's about an average of 2.5 to 3 years if you're full-time, and that includes doing 400 hours of clinical practicums, meaning direct contact with people or patients, adults, children of all different needs. After that, when you finish, you have exit exams or practicum exams, and that shows your knowledge and your competency in your area. And then you apply for your clinical fellowship. And that's kind of equivalent to like a residency. So for doctors, like if you're finishing your work, when you finish school, you go into work and you have a year of supervision and direct collaboration with a supervisor. These are the universities in the state of California that offer communicative disorders as an accredited, nationally accredited program. So when you are a speech pathologist, when you graduate from any of these universities, you are able to work anywhere in the nation and anywhere in actually the world. It's a high demand job. They are always looking for speech pathologists, and it has to be a nationally accredited program to get the degree. And then I threw in a slide about an average income, which I noticed no one else did, so I'll keep going, and that's about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, students. See how speech language pathology.
Solution. Thank you.
Okay, so you have about, I know you have
Mine's 5 minutes. Okay.
yours is 5 minutes.
Okay.
So you can come over here.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn Waba. I'm going to talk about business administration. I'm sure you've seen me around church. This is my family, my husband, George, and I have my 2 crazy kids you've seen around church, Catherine and Alex. So currently I'm a stay-at-home mom, but before that, I actually had a career. I went to school at Occidental College. I have my bachelor's in economics, and then I went to USC and I have my master's in accounting. So after USC, I got a job in Los Angeles working for Northrop Grumman, which is an aerospace company that builds airplanes and satellites. And I worked as a financial analyst. And what a financial analyst does was I tracked cost and budget for the airplanes and satellites. After Northrop Grumman, I worked for Siemens, which is a large company based in Germany. And I worked for the construction division as a senior financial analyst. At the same time, I was also working at UCLA as an instructor of accounting, teaching working professionals accounting for 3 years. And then George decided he wanted to move to Bakersfield. So I quit my job and got a job here in town in Shafter at an oil company called Baker Hughes. And I worked there as a financial analyst. And right now, then I had Catherine. Catherine came along, and it made it difficult to work. And with George's schedule, it was hard to take care of her and work. So I became a stay-at-home mom, and that's what I've done for 6 years. It's been a blessing to be a stay-at-home mom, but the most challenging job I've had so far is actually being a stay-at-home mom. So I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of a business degree based on my experience when I was working. So there's lots of career opportunities in accounting and finance because every industry has an accounting and finance department. I had the opportunity to work in aerospace, in construction industry, the oil industry, because they all need a finance accounting type person. With a business degree, you can also go into marketing and sales. Marketing is more at a corporate level, but there's other opportunities out there. It's also a stable job. I was able to support us, George and myself, for 10 years while he was doing his residency and going to school, because it has good pay. It's not high pay, but it's good. It has benefits and 401k, which are really important. Also, you can get a lot of good skills in the business field. There's a lot of teamwork, team building, presentations that you have to give. So there's a lot of great skills that you can obtain with a business degree. There are some cons, and I listed 3 up here. It is a competitive degree because a lot of students in college do pursue a business degree, and you'll see that. And so after graduations, everyone's fighting for the same job. So how do you set yourself apart from everybody else? My only advice would be to try to gain as much experience as you can while you're in school. I know a lot of the Asian cultures and the Egyptian culture, they don't want you to work when you're in school, but it's actually good because you can build a lot of skills when you're working, like people skills, communication skills, teamwork skills that you don't necessarily get when you're in school. And it's not the most exciting job, so if you can't picture yourself working in a cubicle all day in front of the computer, then business might not be for you. And then the lack of flexibility. And
And even with finance, there were deadlines that we would have to meet monthly, quarterly, yearly. So there were long hours that I'd have to put in, and it was hard when you have children at home. So those are things to consider. And if you have any questions, I'm around church and feel free to ask me. But I want to leave you with this quote that I found online. And it says, "The expert at anything was once a beginner." And these are just some words that are good to remember, because when you graduate, don't set high expectations for yourself that you'll get like a high paying job right away or you'll be CEO right away. You just want to get your foot in the door. And once you get your foot in the door and you are good at what you do, it will be recognized and you'll just move up really fast from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Business degree. We will have a 15-minute break. We're going to come back at 11:30. There is refreshments outside the church doors. Please be back on time so we can continue with our schedule. Thank you.